Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to people joining us from different parts of the world. Welcome to this five-part Fireside chat series that we are hosting at Saxon AI. Just a quick intro of who we are, and then we'll go into the actual content. So we at Saxon AI are in the AI-led transformation business. We are helping enterprises to use the power of AI and data to kind of transform themselves and become better business entities and drive better business outcomes. Having said that, the five-part series is all about how things have changed in the last couple of years with new technologies coming in. And we all have been through the COVID world. We have emerged out of the post-COVID world, and now we are actually seeing different volatilities coming up in the world. So in that context, I think what we have picked up here may be of a lot of relevance because one, the way the enterprises have today's workforce has changed quite a bit. And then technologies such as AI and automation also has evolved. And enterprises are realizing that there's better way of employing this to kind of augment some of their existing workforce or to kind of upgrade their business game. So in that context, this five-part series, we start with first of all picking up like what what is happening to today's workforce, how is it getting reimagined, right, or like reconstructed in that manner. So what are some of the technological influences that will drive further these advancements, right?
Yeah.
So I'm joined here by Joel, who leads the technology and automation practice for Saxon. So he's instrumental in creating offerings and building solutions which are primarily AI-led solutions for the enterprises. Um, so, Joel, let me ask you this: like, what do you see as the key, factor that is driving this transformation, or like, why do you think that like the workforce that today that exists in the current format will get disrupted probably in next 2 3 years of time frame?
Yeah. No, thanks, Hari, and thanks everyone who is joining us and watching us, watching this video. It's a very pertinent topic. At the same time, when you look at this topic from starting from the modern workplace, there is no state in an organization when an organization can look at that and say, okay, now we are modern workplace. Modern workplace is constant or continuous innovation, right?
Right.
Especially when you look at the last 2 years. Pandemic has exposed a lot of unpreparedness of organization and has forced executives to rethink, reimagine the workplace, uh, and the idea that it need to reduce the risk of irrelevancy and also future-proof growth, bringing in new agility and resilience in the organization. Now, uh, when we kind of now double click into that, what does that mean for a modern workplace? Especially that the modern workplace must adapt to change faster
Mhm.
and must generate growth. In my opinion, a modern workplace must, aim for three C's. Yeah, one is it's composable, meaning it's design modular, and at the same time designed for change, so that ability to look at segments to control the change as well as scale, right? While it's composable, it need to be connected to leverage the power of one enterprise to augment the workforce, right? And the final C is cognitive, which is to scale decision making across organization, um, faster at the speed that the customer expect, right? So the modern workplace now aim to adapt for change faster and generate growth, bringing these qualities. Now, once we go a little bit more into this topic about what does this really the focus area now in
Mhm.
this new normal or next normal, but this is a high level, I believe, to start off from the perspective to understand the shifting trends in the workforce, which is real, impacting the decisions taken in the modern workplace by executives today.
Got it. Thank you. So you touched upon these three C's, and the important, the critical piece is the change, right? So change is something that, like,
Yeah.
which kind of disturbs the existing ecosystem, and but that is also something that we have been consistently witnessing, because we went all the way from like on-site work to remote to hybrid and all those things. Now, this change that you are talking about, right? In what context are you actually talking
Yeah.
about the change there?
Yeah, that's very important, to understand. One is from a change aspect, but if you were to look at it, modern workplace or all these exponential technologies, AI, automation, none of this is new. The conversation has been around for a long period of time.
Right.
What changed, especially post COVID, is there is a increased adoption or interest in some of these areas, so that how do you actually make some of this as part of the constant evolution that is happening now, from a workplace per se, and especially for the executives. When we look at specifically some of these areas, they need to kind of focus into what some of the key core capabilities to enable this, right? Especially when it comes to change that need to be embraced. It also depends on the organization's maturity level, considering the core capabilities that's part of the modern workplace. Now, what are some of that core capabilities, right? Which is of focus in this next normal or the new normal. I believe there are three core capabilities that the executives are focusing in. One is democratization of expertise across the firm. Um, Another is the effective collaboration and optimized interaction across the firm. Finally, I think executives are also focusing smart process engineering. This is moving away from what used to be more task-based automation into more augmentation of the workforce. I believe these are the three focus areas right now executives are focusing, right, to embrace the modern or mature the modern workplace. Again, we need to look at from various maturity level in here. And if I again go they pick one area and double click into it, which is, imagine a level one organization of a more traditional approach where knowledge is more person to person, more relationship oriented. And I run up to an HR to ask about, hey, what is the HR policy for XYZ, or I'll run up to a finance.
Yeah.
A level two is more about centralizing this, keeping this in a SharePoint and centralized location accessible. And level three is more about end to end, from top to bottom. The knowledge and the access is there for all the individuals. So you're making that more available. And finally, it is more transformative. That is, at the time and the space and the platforms or tools that I work, the knowledge is made available, more proactive,
Mhm.
right? That's the transformative step. So if I actually take knowledge and look at multiple levels of the maturity levels, looking at how to embrace change or how to brace for some of this change that need to be accommodated by moving up the maturity levels, right? And same we can talk about for effective collaboration and for smart process engineering. But the idea is, how do you do that, like we mentioned, from a composable fashion, looking at a workplace more modular, composable, and then structure for those changes across the core capabilities that you are building, no matter what function it is, right?
Sure, sure. So another aspect is, like, you spoke about change, and especially at this point in time, right? So bringing the context to today's business climate, there is a lot of uncertainty all over, right? So one, we don't know whether we are getting into recession, and we are already seeing a lot of layoffs that are happening with some, even with the high-profile companies, right? And uh, we don't know how the the political climate is going to evolve with whatever is going to happen. In that context, right now, if we were to kind of
Yeah,
see uh, change and like the disruption that the workforce is going, so it can become scary, right? Like one, it infuses fear in the minds of people, like whether you spoke about cognition and the automation piece coming into AI and all this stuff. So there's a fear, right? So, and the first thing is like enterprises will say, like we are in middle of this thing, why should we even embrace this, right? Like people want to kind of protect their jobs. People think that, like is this going to kind of take away my immediate jobs, or like how it's going to kind of impact, so the overall business also,
yeah.
right? So for that, I think we should bring in the clarity of what kind of cognitive automation
Absolutely.
do we.
Absolutely. And before we go into the automation and the cognitive automation element of it, what you touched upon is especially, looking at the changes, uncertainty. What is that modern workplace? As I hinted in the beginning, modern workplace is all about continuous innovation and also looking at that framework, innovation framework of a sort. It's about scan for signals, right? The signals about what are the disruptive insights, like we mentioned about the shift in the workforce trends. Like I think yesterday, LinkedIn CEO Ryan Rolinski was talking about skills will replace degrees from colleges, right? Also about the importance of skill-based organizations. I think it's Deloitte calls as skill-based organizations. The idea over there is there's a shift, fundamental shift in reinventing work, the signals of change that you can gather in terms of whether that is from a workforce oriented or work in itself and skill especially. So a modern workplace following some of this framework, starting with scanning for signals, then setting directions based on how you look at that impact of the signal within the workplace, and then you look at how do you make your investments for building the capability relevant to the industry at the same time, taking in the signals, and then making your decision choices accordingly. So it's almost like modern workplace running as a continuous innovation in the organization, right? So that is one part.
Mhm.
I want to step into the aspect that you pointed on, the cognitive automation. So where does intelligent automation come in picture with all of this, right? I believe, like we mentioned, from the core capabilities, whether that you look from democratizing the expertise or smart process engineering, or in terms of optimizing digital interactions, intelligent automation, which is and we need to define cognitive automation, intelligent automation, because as such there is so much of a
Correct.
confusion in the terminology.
Yeah.
To me, it is all about business driven automation enabled by evolving and complementary technologies or exponential technologies like AI, analytics, automation, and apps. Right, the power of 4A, as at Saxon AI we call it, the combinatory power of 4A is exactly where what we mean by leveraging the intelligent automation in it. So the role of intelligent automation to enable these core capabilities in the workplace is the key aspects.
So I sorry to kind of
Sure,
cut you
no problem.
there, but what I want to do is, like for the benefit of people who are listening in here, if I'm a business owner,
Yeah,
right, I want to kind of take a step back, like,
yeah,
and see, like what should I be asking myself,
yeah,
like whether I have to look at relook at my current workforce, or like reorganize that to kind of gain better efficiencies, and like how do I kind of assess this thing, and like what kind of signals should I be looking at
yeah.
to see whether can I take the benefit of what you are talking about, like the
Yeah.
automation piece and all those things. So what are some of those fundamental questions that we should be asking
Yeah.
when it comes to workforce?
No, absolutely. So I think, going back to that same topic in terms of, how do you evaluate, the maturity level of your in the organization in terms of some of these core capabilities we believe is part of the next normal. Like at what stage are is the organization in terms of making the knowledge available to within the organization and across the organization. What state it is in terms of optimized interactions, right? As well as for how is the process that is involved in the workplace. Is it more ad hoc, or is it more tailored, and is it more um, you know uh, intelligent interaction enabled, right? So the idea of this is to look at what stage we each of the organization is, and then kind of define next steps around it, right? If you and if you were to draw parallels with even pre-COVID and post-COVID from that perspective, just taking the area of automation for that matter, there has been an increased adoption of automation, maybe with the wave of RPA that came up, or process automation that came in. And primarily, the idea was to accelerate transactions so that you gain, reduce cost, maybe more operational from the operational layer. But then, if you look at now post COVID, and especially look at front runners, what they're also focusing is not just cost reduction, but also looking at how this is also impacting the top line from customer experience enhancement, bringing innovative business models. Now, this is from a cognitive automation or any of those automation approach per se, from various stage or levels that the organization is in. So the questions they need to, I believe, must ask is in terms of that core capabilities to be matched with the outcomes that an organization is really looking for, than cost reduction as a parameter, if you actually consider automating some of this process. So,
Very interesting point that you mentioned there. Like, what you are asking the business owners to do is like, one, like, they operated, or like they tend to kind of operate with like using power of automation or any technologies, from bringing in just the cost efficiencies or time efficiencies. But what you are suggesting is they should be looking at like how transformative it could be for these technologies to create a totally different employee experience or a customer experience. Because we know that, like, the especially the post COVID world, like a lot of things changed. Like, even companies which were not very well prepared, they had to kind of think about strategies how to kind of give alternative experience. Now that that is a norm that is set, the customers and the consumers would want to take it up few notches higher. And same thing is with the employee experience, right? So what you're suggesting there is like, rethink about your technological investments, all the automation ideas or any of those things, from purely from changing the experience, and don't think as mostly like a kind of a cost that you're bringing down, but what can it add to your business, how value addition can emerge, and like, how probably new revenue opportunities also can emerge by using this technology. So we are
absolutely.
talking from that perspective, right?
Absolutely, and that's why I mean the properties of the 3C, as we said it, right? Like, from a connected enterprise, which what we are saying is the power of one for augmenting the workforce, which is primarily from, if you want to focus on total experience, that is, you cannot focus on custom enabling customer experience, sacrificing or not focusing on employee experience. It is the employee experience and the customer experience, that drives the customer experience. So if you enhance it and enhance your employee experience, that directly has a proportionality to how you will deliver your customer experience, which is the total experience from that perspective. So, and the idea that you that was also talking from looking at investments, whether that is automation or AI enabled automation or whatnots, not just as a cost reduction, but also from a business outcomes, right? So whether that is top line and revenue enhancement, customer experience, or business models, absolutely. That's the when you start tagging some of the business outcomes as the primary objectives, rather than automating tasks or making individual transaction acceleration as a benefit, that will aid the overall investment from whether that is in cognitive automation or in uplifting the modern workplace maturity levels.
Got it. So, tying back all these things to our today's topic, right, which is reimagining the workforce to automation. So, in summary, what we are going to kind of discuss in the next couple of episodes is not, primarily, uh, what should I say, like replacing their existing workforce or any of those things, but like how these technologies should be used as an augmentation to their
That's
current
right.
existing workforce.
That's right.
So we are not trying to kind of replace their workforce, but we are trying to kind of bring in the concepts of how enterprises should rethink, right, and should actually start building themselves towards a new workforce model which kind of coexist with their current workforce, right, in some
Absolutely,
form.
absolutely. It's and we hinted on some of these areas, which is from how to move the needle from transaction acceleration as could be an objective to more about augmenting decision making across the organization. The idea of making decision making at scale in the organization, especially at the speed that your customer expects, right? That's what we hinted by the cognitive nature of the property, the 3C of a modern workplace. Absolutely, that's the in the next set of series. What we want to also deep dive into is how this is going to enable, and also what are the different options from bringing the combinatory power to enable some of this, and maybe potentially to look at a specific area, right, to deep dive into and say what would be the reimagined workplace would even look like from that perspective. So absolutely.
Got it. So if for our viewers, they need to have one takeaway from this episode. What I would say is, like, we started off like probably a decade back in the automation space and other things, where like the RPA came in and where it actually helped to kind of take away some of the routine manual tasks, and it brought in some operational efficiency. So that was the first wave of it. The second wave, like, which kind of got accelerated during the COVID, was like this introduction of the digital workers, right, coming in and trying to kind of in somewhat trying to kind of work with their existing workforce. But where we are going now, like in the next 2 3 years, where it is going to be more rampant, and like enterprises who are going to kind of who be first movers and adopt this well, will be the leaders, are like when the cognitive automation and this combinatory power of four-way that we are going to talk about in the next episodes will slowly augment whatever that their current workforce is doing, and where knowledge becomes a service, right? So we are trying to kind of bring in, because you are talking about enterprises becoming more intelligent, transformed in a manner. Why? Because this knowledge is coming out as a service and working with their workforce. Am I right in summarizing this thing, or do you want to kind of
Yeah.
add to?
No, I think some of these points that we wanted to discuss in the next series, but also summary is that modern workplace is looking at, it's about constant innovation, right? Continuous innovation, and focusing to adapt to change faster and generate growth, and to look at that in the next normal or the new normal. The focus areas of how can knowledge be democratized or democratize expertise in the firm, how can smart process re-engineering can augment the workforce, and at the same time how intelligent interactions or effective collaboration or optimized interactions can enable the organization, right, or the workplace for that matter. So I think that's the key summary from a modern workplace reimagining. And then when we step into how AI enabled automation is making the a wave or the new waves in this space, very specifically the modern workplace, then definitely we'll be touch basing on some of those topics.
Sure. So thanks, Joel, for joining us
Thank you,
today.
Hari.
So we hope to kind of stay connected and bring in more aspects of this automation in the next couple of episodes that we intend to um, have this dialogue. And